So today we're going to talk about regular giving and how we can um, level up on this and let donors give how they want to give and on their terms. As Naomi said, my name is Salvatore, Chief Community Officer at Fundraise Up. I've been on the charity side. I've run digital fundraising for large nonprofits. I've worked in e-commerce companies outside of the charity and nonprofit sector, and now I'm here at Fundraise Up for the last 6 or 7 years, where I've had the privilege and honor of working with hundreds, if not thousands, of nonprofits, many of them similar missions to what you do. So let's talk about our agenda briefly today. Um, First, I want to make sure that everyone has my contact information and that of my UK counterpart and team. There is my LinkedIn and email. So if you want to copy that onto a note, just so you have it in case you have questions or you want to follow up afterward, take that down and we can connect afterward. So, our agenda, we're going to talk about where we are today with regular giving. Then we've got a small section called Do Unto Others, the current consumer digital buying experience, and we're going to compare that against the current charity digital regular giving experience. Two different experiences, same person. Common reasonings for the current state of regular giving. Then we're going to look at data, and I ask all of you to kind of have an open mind with the data and embrace it. They are numbers. They are not in any kind of way slanted. Just some real raw data. And we've got a treat. I was able to get specific data set to compare against the UK baseline um, for the Christian faith-based organizations that we work with, like Salvation Army, IJM, and so on, Mercy Ships. We'll look at two quick case studies and then what we can do today, followed by, if we have time, a Q&A and discussion. I will run through these slides rapidly at a brisk pace. So really what we're going to address through our conversation here are two disconnects. One is technology, that UK charities are typically using, and one is a mindset that has, in many ways, held back the UK charity sector from advancing on those technologies. So let's dive in a little bit and look at where we are today. United Kingdom culturally leads in regular giving. Culturally, regular giving is a massive part, and it's growing. We can look at these statistics as regular giving as a percentage of online revenue, 22, 23, 24 from the latest M&R UK benchmarks that came out, I believe, just a few weeks ago from M&R and Rally. My good friend Paul Gregorio over there heads down putting that data together. And we see these numbers. They're increasing. Regular giving is growing, and it leads other countries by, in some cases, almost twofold, right? So culturally, regular giving, that's a strong base to start from. Are we taking advantage of that as much as possible? Spoiler alert, we aren't. It lags in revenue. That's okay because, again, we have different economic and cost of living conditions at play, but there is room to grow. We're looking at the average gift for regular in cash in 23 and 24. Regular giving average has gone down just a bit, as did cash, but we still have a strong percentage of revenue being attributed to regular giving, and that's growing. So what it basically says is folks have a little less spare cash in their pockets, but more people are committing monthly. So that's a good sign, I think, for society as a whole. So there's room to grow, right? In the UK, you have 480 regular donors per 1,000, which translates, multiplied by your average gift of 4,800 pound of regular donor revenue per 1,000 donors. And the rest of the world is at 2/3 of the number of regular donors, 300 per thousand, but they're earning about 50% more on that. Just to contextualize, what if we could add 20 to 40% or more regular donors while our average gift remains unchanged. We can't change socioeconomic conditions and what they are able to give, but we can make regular giving more accessible to more people. And if we did that, and if we were able to add that 20 to 40, we level the playing ground and we get to really lead in regular donor count and revenue. Let's hop into this section here called Do Unto Others. The expectations of your donors, and we're going to talk about the donor experience, the engagement that your donor has with your organization, and where that sits. Is it messaging? Is it your logo and branding? Is it the image you choose? Is it the experience and the user interface and the technological interactions they have with your brand, right? So where does the experience, where is that mostly shaped? The expectations of these donors are set by their buying experiences. 90% plus of their money is spent buying or paying for other things. So their expectations, they're conditioned by the buying experiences of what to expect when they click on give or donate or support. The current consumer digital buying experience. This is what they expect because 9 to 9.5 times out of 10, they're seeing experiences like this, right? They're clean, they're bold, they are, here is Grind Coffee offering Apple Pay, American Express, PayPal for their subscription of the 1 kilo bag of coffee beans, right? Netflix, the most subscribed to platform in the world, certainly the United Kingdom, subscriptions based fully, the largest subscription model we have to monitor kind of subscription behaviors and data, and they're accepting Visa, MasterCard, and American Express for their regular giving. The Telegraph, we couldn't have a more institutional organization here. And bold up top, PayPal, card if you prefer, and then very small there at the bottom, we see a direct debit option. So this is, there is a reason that they're offering these payment methods and these ways to engage their base in this order with these sorts of payment methods. These large brands and companies have done the work for us. We can dive into that in a bit. So this is what they're used to, right? They're used to Uber and Shopify and Amazon and these very clear one-click, zero typing kind of financial transaction experiences. What does the current charity digital regular giving experience look like? Does anybody shudder just a little bit? The expectations are immediately not met when donors click on give regularly on your organization. And when the expectations are not met, these donors either do not give or they give you a pass for being a charity. But the pass, the get out of jail free card, is being handed out less and less at scale. Scan this QR code if you have a moment. Let's see there. And I want to see, give me a second here. I'll put the link in the chat. How many of us have made a donation to our own organization? Give me a second and I'll start the poll there. So let's see here. All right. So if you've scanned that or if you click the link, go ahead and let's explore if you've ever made a donation on mobile, on desktop, on both, neither, or you prefer not to share that information. And if we're, I've seen rooms of hundreds of folks where I've asked this question, and we'll see sometimes those that are in charge of individual giving or regular giving, many of the times will not even experience what it's like for the donor to do what we ask them to do. right? So we've got so far about 35 votes in. That's enough. That's stat sig. A third of us have tried it on a desktop, about a fifth on mobile devices. About a third have tried it on both. We've got about 15% of us, 13%, that have not ever tried to give to their own organization. So that's important, because we need to know what it's like to walk a mile in their shoes, right? So let's go ahead and end that poll. And there's our numbers. We're going to come back to another question in just a bit that I think will be also a bit telling here. Let's go ahead and restart the presentation. All right, I think we're back. We're okay. We got the screen again. All right, good. So here's a typical charity checkout, right? And I've anonymized the colors and the branding so as to protect the innocent, but it's pretty standard, right? I click on one-time gift and I have my options there, and I have Visa and I have MasterCard and I have PayPal. Fantastic. Feels right. Feels like the 21st century. And then I click on regular and monthly and I've got one option, direct debit. Okay. We'll dive into the opportunity there in just a bit. Or at best, I've got direct debit and PayPal. Okay. I saw one organization in my auditing, my surveying, and it said it had an arrow. It said choose the payment method that works best for you, and it had one option, just direct debit. So it was kind of like, yes or yes. Which one do you want? So some of the observations from that work that I did in sampling, about 85% only offer direct debit for regular giving out of the top 20 largest charities in the UK. One offered credit card, two offered PayPal, all of those three also offering direct debit, obviously. Two of them required a login to give. Five didn't make it clear which payment methods would be available to me for regular giving. One misrepresented the option, so it had a number of payment methods, but only one would actually be available when you got there. And the point here is that this is a stark contrast to any other UK-based e-commerce company, right? These e-commerce companies that invest millions in R&D to find out what is best for revenue, growth, consumer experience, sentiment, and the overall donor slash consumer human satisfaction with that experience. So we talked about payment methods. It's really more than just payment methods that we need to improve and level up. These are just some experiences of some organizations I looked at right here. Here I'm trying to make a gift, step 2 of 6. Right? If Uber or Amazon or Netflix put you through a step 2 of 6 to sign up, their board and their shareholders would have their heads, right? We see long, kind of text-heavy pages, a lot of disclaimers. Here, again, I'm able to make a gift, but only on these 4 days of the month, right? Imagine, going to start a Grind coffee subscription or a Netflix or Telegraph, and they go, "Fantastic, we'd love to have you as a subscriber, but it's not going to start for another week." Right? So you can start today, but you have to pick a date in the future. Right? That we have the technology to not we have the technology to close that gap between what a consumer, i.e., donor in consumer clothing, want, and we have to meet them there. Here is another one, 4 steps, long pages, and all of that while they're expecting this. While 9 times out of 10, they're expecting this. This is what they instinctually expect when someone says, please give me your money for pizza, shoes, or anything that you might be buying, or a donation. So why is there such a difference? Why do we have that big difference between the charity space and how they, right? It's kind of like I'm used to taking a cab or an Uber, but to do this other thing, I have to take a horse and buggy, right? Why we have the vehicles and the combustion engine and the electric vehicles? Why can't we meet that same expectation. So let's look at how UK citizens, your donors, want to give. These are some data that are coming from reputable sources. WorldPay, Global Payments Report. Digital wallets are increasing 5.5%, 24 over 23. It's not slowing down, and credit cards are going to be losing the most over the next few years. We see A to A, or direct debit. That's the percentage there of all e-commerce payments. It attributes for 5% of all payments. Right, so that's going to include your utilities, your phone bill, things like this. New demographics, percentage of registered mobile payment users by age group. Okay, so we see 22, 23. These stats here are already a couple years old. We're looking at the percentage of those age groups that are using Apple Pay or Google Pay. It is growing radically. Okay, especially, mental note, if you're looking to attract new donor bases, younger donor bases, a more inclusive donor base, and well-rounded with donors from, right, the 25 to 35 age group, for example, the 35 to 44. How do we meet them where they are? And here we see this going back a few more years. So similar data. ukfinance.org.uk. Direct debit is used for about 70 to 80% of bills and utilities. Bookmark that. Growth or shrinkage in direct debit is tied strictly to population. So when it grows, it's because the population is growing. When it shrinks, it's because population is shrinking. It's not necessarily tied to preference by any means. So it's going down there. More subscriptions are paid for with Apple Pay and Google Pay now than direct debit. Card payments are forecasting to be 66% of all payments in the UK within the next 5 to 7 years. And a quote from that I felt was very interesting was, it says, similar to most new technological innovations, younger people are more likely to use Apple Pay or Google Pay. We expect that over the next decade, older age groups will start to catch up with younger cohorts in terms of adoption of mobile payments, which is a common pattern, right? It's a lagging pattern, but we're there now. My parents use Apple Pay regularly. I'm sure we're seeing that happening in more age groups as time goes on. So what are some common reasonings for the current state of digital regular giving? I asked before, why the gap? And you might have said in your mind, oh, because our software doesn't allow us, or, well, it's better, or they retain longer, or the costs are lower. I'm sure we all had some version of those things come up. I don't have time to read all of these, but I want to lay them out. If you want the slides after, you can email me. I can send you the slides. You can look at this with some more time and dive a little deeper. But in summary, regarding cost, the actual really situation is that direct debit has similar pricing to credit card when we look at the average gift sizes and so on. So we can look at this data. We're talking a pence here or there in the cost of processing a direct debit versus credit card. When we factor in revenue losses by essentially shunning those that want to give regularly with another payment method, right? Of those that prefer to give with Apple Pay or PayPal or credit card on the regular giving, we can assume safely about half of them will not concede and choose direct debit, right? They're going to give that way or not. So when we factor revenues lost, it's actually so much more expensive. And when we look at the average gift sizes of direct debit versus credit card, we have actually a bit higher on credit card when we look at the data. We save just a few p on direct debit, and we're earning over £2 more on a regular gift on credit card. So that means, in many cases, for the regular giving, a younger demographic that is using their iPhone to make a regular gift, on average, will give £2 more or so than your average direct debit donor. So what we're essentially doing if we refuse them or don't welcome them on their terms is we're trading 5p for 2p, for £2, right? So that's the kind of math that I think excites me to move the industry forward, to look at it from a business lens instead of a cost savings lens. How do we have the most impact and revenue to create impact? Retention. We'll look a bit more on this later, as I have some data specific to Christian orgs. But I hear a lot, well, they don't expire. Credit cards don't expire anymore either. They automatically update. Bank accounts are likely to have more funds. That's the common understanding, but the credit cards rarely, if ever, fail, especially if it's a PayPal, Apple Pay, Google Pay. They always work because I'm going to get my Starbucks and I use Apple Pay to pay for my Starbucks, and it's always going to function, right? So we actually see that the automatic card updating is very effective. In fact, data shows that there's a 20% increase in effectiveness in the UK than even in the US for that technology. The UK banking system is very up to date and in step with those things. So the retention argument kind of goes out the window. We see that we have higher, if not equal, retention on regular donors that are not using direct debit. Technology and admin effort. This is true. One of the retorts will often be, and I've talked about this topic, as Naomi said earlier last year or this year. I presented IFC in Netherlands at that conference on this topic, and folks just say, well, we just don't do it that way, and I can't build it, and our tech doesn't do it. The tech is there now. It can do it. What we're really battling are internal process changes. So yes, it's expensive to build these systems and do this, but we shouldn't be building them. We should be using tools that are enabling and empowering us to level up, fundraise up out of the box. All of the hundreds of organizations we work with in the UK that are Christian faith-based, they all have Apple Pay, Google Pay, PayPal, credit card, direct debit available to their donors, and they see massive growth because of it. But they're not building that technology. They don't have someone that they don't need to foot the bill for that. Even McDonald's doesn't build their own app. They have endless funds and they don't build their own technology, right? They say, we do burgers and fries. You do the tech that's going to enable us. They know what they're good at. So as an industry, sticking to our core competencies, which is mostly our mission, that's where we can really shine. Most digital fundraising technologies do not offer some of this technology and these things we're talking about, but some do. As I mentioned, we're there. There's some others in the space, but it's imperative that we start meeting the donors there. We're going to get to the data in just a second. We do need to make a few changes internally. We need to add that CRM drop-down value for payment method for the regular gift. We might need to enable a couple things in our systems, tweak how we work. But if it means that we're able to help or feed or clothe 20 to 40% more individuals, it's worth it, right? That's the outcome. We're going to attract new donors, retain talent, automate more tasks. I know many of us still, will process the regular gifts once a month, or we'll send the file to our banker and they'll process them. These are manual tasks that I assure you, the companies that are building on a subscription economy world, they're not doing that, right? And we're going to be able to do all of this while doing more good in our communities and the world. Common reasoning, just inertia, too difficult to test. We've always just done it that way. It's how everyone does it, right? I've heard all these sorts of comments. Testing, do you need to test? Right? Hasn't the for-profit industry spent millions testing for us? Can we take advantage of what they're investing in to understand what consumers want and then leverage those same outcomes for donors, right? In the end of the day, we're trading an experience for financial transaction. We're not that far from where they are as consumers in the transaction expectations. Sure, our reasons why we give and so on, those are different. How we um, uh, garner interest and generosity, that's different. But how I transact is the same. It's always done, it's always been done that way. So look at Blockbuster and Borders, right? They said the same thing. It's always done that way. And we don't see either of those around. So we want to, that to me screams this is an existential kind of list item for charities to really address this. Testing is not necessary, but there is tech that can do it if needed. Change is necessary to keep up with donor expectations. And not everyone's doing it. We have hundreds of case studies and reference points to look at for those nonprofits that are doing it. So let's look at data. Let's go to this next little poll. This is my favorite one. Let me see here. Right. I'm going to start this next poll. I want you to rank these monthly expenses in order of what brings you the most joy. Don't mind my little digital gremlin there. Created him with an AI bot. So go ahead and scan that. Let me get you the link if that's helpful again. And I'll put that in the chat. Let's see here. There's the chat. Hop in. Let's rank these in order of what brings you most joy. One vote in, 5 typing. This is typically a pretty telling. What brings us joy? I feel excited. I'm happy to do it. I love paying that bill because it brings me value. We've got 12 of us in, 11 still filling it out, 10 of us. The 4 of you finish up. 6. We have 5 more. All right. I don't know if any of you can see where I'm going with this, but maybe you can. 2 of you finishing up, 1 left, and let's go ahead and see 1 typing. Give it a few seconds here. All right, 35 votes. Here we go. There's our results. You see them on your screen. Number 1, Netflix streaming platforms. Number 2, I get the most joy from my monthly donations. Food service subscriptions, pet subscriptions, rent, utility bills, and insurance premiums round out the rest of that. Okay, fantastic. So we have our data. We've got our obligations, our rent, utility bills, and insurance premiums on direct debit. Sorry about that. Okay. And then we've got all of our joy happening on our credit cards and Apple Pays and so on, right? Why would we force our donors to make their monthly gift with all of their other obligations, not joy? In my mind, I'm associating psychologically, maybe not even sub-psychologically, all of my obligations and drudgery of life with direct debit. Those are my have-tos. While all of my joy, my streaming, my food, my pets, I'm paying with other methods. Okay, so this is a fundamental difference in how we perceive that experience. So let's dive into a little bit of data here. I've got data from about 350,000 regular gifts. We're looking at only regular gifts. We're only looking at only the first half of this year. So I've got some real-time data I'm able to share. Looking at over 100 nonprofits, which by context is 3 times or more the UK benchmark data set size. We're looking at nonprofits here, large and small, and they're all using one digital giving platform. Obviously, Fundraise Up. That's the only place I'm able to uh, get first-party data and be able to validate that fully. And then I have another data set we're going to compare against that is only Christian faith-based data set, and it's including organizations large and small like CAFOD, Salvation Army, IJM UK, God TV, Aid to the Church in Need, Mercy Ship, CBM, etc. And they're all using the one platform, Fundraise Up, and they're offering these different payment methods to their donors. And what are they seeing, right? So I wanted to make sure that I had a separate data set just for this group that we're talking to, because it's very specific and there are differences. There are some features that will impact the data that we're sharing that Fundraise Up offers. One is AI-powered ask amounts. So this increases conversion and often the average when you automate how much you ask donors to give using predictive AI modeling. That's a whole different session. We're offering all payment methods for regular giving in this data. So the donors are allowed to give with whatever they want. They all have a donor portal for self-servicing, which is increasing retention. They're able to make changes, change the amount, change the dates, and so on. And what is this sorcery? It is our platform, which is a no lock-in contract, no budget impact cost. This is not a pitch, just answering the questions that I get afterward. I am not a salesperson. We have some of the team there that I've left the contact information in case you want to get in touch with us. It integrates with all CRMs via CSV, native integrations, API, and we can talk about it if we need to. So let's look at some cool stats. Of all of the regular gifts that we're looking at in the hundreds of thousands, Christian charities in our ecosystem, 48.4% of new regular gifts are made on a mobile device, compared to 64.8%, which is our blended average. Humanitarian aid, environmental, etc. All sectors and verticals and sects of the UK charity landscape, 64.8. So we've got about a 40, 50% gap there in number of folks that are choosing to give on a mobile device. This is typically tied to demographics and age groups and who we are targeting. So we also have like a self-fulfilling cycle, right? So we target older donors because older donors are the ones that will give. But really what we're saying is older donors are the ones that will persevere through our limited options, while younger donors are not giving the pass to allow to give without the payment methods they prefer. So we target older donors and we have this cycle that kind of continues. That number is going up from 48.4 over the years, but that's where we're at now as the Christian faith-based orgs gain confidence in attracting donors of new age groups and so on. What are the payment methods that are being used for new regular gifts? Now, for you, likely it's 100% or 80% or 90% are on direct debit or UK backs. And you might have a certain percentage that are using PayPal or something like that. So here I'm looking at some data about from the last four quarters of which payment methods in the ecosystem of Fundraise Up charities where we're offering all payment methods. What are the donors choosing? 48% are choosing credit card, but even a bit higher in the Christian charity cohort that we have that included those orgs that I mentioned earlier and many others. 49%. Desktop versus mobile, we can see the last four quarters separated by device type. That might be too deep of a dig. We'll stick to the first two columns for now. But again, if you want these slides, I can share them with you. Just email me and I'll get you a link. Apple Pay. 21% across UK are choosing Apple Pay for their regular giving, and 14% in Christian charities. PayPal 12.9, Google Pay 5.3. So the Christian charity sub data set is a bit lower on those express payment methods. Again, likely due to a growing younger donor base as we gain the confidence to reach out to them offering these, but still we see that 60% are choosing something else that isn't direct debit. And if you roughly assume that half of those in that 60% are, not willing to give on the payment method they prefer, you've got your built-in 30% regular donor growth just by offering more payment methods in an automated, easy fashion that doesn't require work from your behalf, just an open mindset and an evolution towards that for the technology appetite. 1 year retention. We actually see that obviously Christian charities have a fantastic retention overall, but we see that we're seeing 1 year regular giving retention highest on credit card for Christian orbs in the UK. And we have a bit under, right? 76%, 78, 71 on the Apple Pay, PayPal, Google Pay, comparing to the UK direct debit, 80% retention there. But again, we're looking at 4 points, 2 points, right? 6 points. Are we willing to trade that for the 30, 40 points that we can increase our overall regular donor base, right? It's I'll take that at the casino all day. If you give me those odds and say, hey, you can double your money this way, I'll do that all day. So let's look at regular giving. A few basic stats here, again, from our data set. These averages might be higher. In fact, they are higher than the UK benchmark. We saw, I think that this year it's at around £10, the average regular gift in the UK. Looking at £14 here. In our ecosystem, again, we're using AI to make recommended amounts and so on. These other stats are around those that are willing to cover fees, convert to regular giving from one-time giving. That's a separate conversation as well. But a mobile desktop split, and those that are leaving tributes. That's everything blended. Then we see direct debit. It's about 24, attributing about 24% of regular gifts. We see that the average gift goes up 20p. And they're slightly less willing to cover the fees on direct debit, but they're more likely to convert their one-time gift to a regular gift. That's great. And we see the desktop audience using direct debit goes up. And then those that are using something that is not direct debit, we're seeing accounts for 76%. And we have an average gift of £14. And they're slightly more willing to cover fees. Still more willing than not to convert from a regular gift to from one time to regular at 54.5%. But we do see strong mobile adoption. If you're looking for those mobile donors, those ones that are on the go, a donor base that's on the move, using their mobile device for many things, that's where we need to meet them, right? Something that's not direct debit. So the conclusions there are mobile donors are younger donors typically. Mobile grows about 50% when you add other options. Your acquisition of regular donors grows by about 50%. Multiple regular giving payment options aligns with their expectations. Let's go full circle back to the beginning of this where we talked about expectations. They expect to give you joyfully their money every month, and they expect their joy transactions to be done on a credit card or Apple Pay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that shows in that an overwhelming, right? We're not talking election majority where it's 51.5%. We're talking 76% are not choosing direct debit at IJM UK, at Mercy Ships UK, at Salvation Army CAV, so on and so forth, right? At least half of these would not give if only direct debit were offered, evidenced by explosive regular giving growth in case studies. I've got two quick case studies I'm going to run through. Again, this will be recorded. You can go by in more detail, get the slides, but we'll do that just for time's consideration and hopefully carve out a little bit of time. I'm happy to stay longer than the 1 hour if we want to go into conversations, but leading by example, case study. So 150-year-old organization, core audience is very obviously very loyal supporters, been around a long time, an elderly audience. Typically, checks and cash were a massive part of their income, and they had a strong reluctance. I worked with this organization personally some years back, and there was a strong reluctance to change, but they needed to try something new to get to the next plateau, the next peak. They thought, let's think big, let's start small and test something, let's scale quickly if it works, but if it doesn't, let's fail fast. It's better to know than not. So this was their prior donation experience. Might look familiar or not out of place for what you might expect to see. And this is what they moved to, something that echoed what the donor sees elsewhere. Okay. And what happened? They saw that mobile then became over 50% of their donor base. We saw all of these transactions. The fee coverage percentage was high. They had a massive increase in all their metrics across the board. So this is all of their regular giving. Here's their direct debit. So again, this is their regular giving all included, right? Where about half, just under half, is on desktop. But if we look at direct debit only, we say about a third, 1,800 of the 3,573, 1,800 were on direct debit. So they're finding new money in the couch cushions. And this isn't just we're finding a few coins, we're finding bags of pound notes to take to the bank. And it's in the mobile devices, it's in the younger donor bases, it's in these other payment methods. So we saw average transactions go up. We saw direct debit accounting for only a third. But here, when we look at no direct debit, we saw average transaction values go up, fee coverage went up, all these numbers. And we see that we have well over half of these new donors on non-direct debit happening on mobile devices. Again, new donors, new supporters for the organization. What was the impact? They doubled the number of new regular givers from the year prior. They improved conversion rates. 48% of regular gifts were choosing something that was new when they were addressing their regular giving. Higher average gifts, different user behaviors, right? They're learning to interact in a new way. It halved the time it took to make a donation on their website. Less confused phone calls to donor services. I'm sure we can all sympathize with these things. I manned that inbox for a while myself. Some donors like the self-service and the donor portal, changing payment methods, having more control as they're used to from their other subscription engagements and transactions. And that's the case study for Salvation Army. And we have some more data here that you can reference if you like slides afterward. Quickly on International Justice Mission, one of my personally favorite orgs and missions, they saw as well a 143% increase in the value of new regular gifts from their giving campaigns by implementing these new payment methods and adding the automation to the process, the personalization. So they're seeing that hundreds of their new regular gifts are using non-direct debit methods that were never previously offered. Half of new monthly donors chose something that wasn't direct debit, and it has a higher average monthly gift than their direct debit signups by about a pound or so, just over a pound. So that's powerful. Again, I won't have time to go through all of these in extreme detail. Here we talk a bit about the drop-off rate, efficiency internally, as well as for the donor and self-management. And here we tie it up. How do we change the game, my friends? We've got to start the conversations internally. We've got to open our minds to the fact and really look in the mirror that is a tough one to look at sometimes and say, look, we are behind what our donors expect. We do speak from one side of our objectives and goals and saying we need to grow regular donors, but then the other side we say, but we can't add that. That's not how we've ever done it. Or the spreadsheet doesn't have that drop down option, or whatever that might be. We can change those, but we have to keep up because the technological landscape and what donors are used to and what they expect is rapidly changing. And we've got to somehow start closing that, or at least reducing the gap. So let's look for solutions, not problems, right? That sounds like something your therapist might tell you. Mine does. Um, so look for solutions, not problems. Obviously, consider your constraints, but be open to innovation over tradition. Take the balanced approach. We don't want to offend anybody internally, but it's really it's up to us to attract new donors, to attract younger demographics, to reduce costs to our organization, provide our donors with a better giving experience end to end. What is that experience like? A good experience also increases trust in your organization. If you're able to put my money to good use in your mission, uh, please at least invest in something that's going to make me feel confident in your organization as far as the technology, right? How are you doing? We can help more people and have more impact. And the data says that we can do that. It is possible. Organizations and Christian faith-based organizations are doing that, and we can if we decide to. It's possible. We can have so much more impact with so much less work for ourselves after we get over that transitional phase. And those that we serve and bring meals to and clothe and provide company to and bring water and our message and the mission to, they will thank us. But your technology has to enable that. It can't burden you. You need technology that invests in you, not you in them, right? You and them is sign this 3-year contract. I promise I'll do great for you. And you're basically investing in them, right? Who look at solutions, fundraise up. We don't take any money from anyone, and we have a shared goal. It's as a performance-based and impact-based business model. You want technology that's going to take responsibility for that, has the same goals as you, committed to stay in step with donor, again, i.e. consumer expectations. And this is your new boss, everyone. Congratulations. These are the people that you serve. Um, these are the ones that, if we say we can't do it, that we have to deliver that message to them, right? These are the folks that really ultimately lose, the souls that lose if we let stuck mindsets or tradition hamper how we get to the next stage of helping them. So here are a bunch of key takeaways. I think we only have about 5 minutes left. Donor experiences typically do not meet consumer expectations. The data supports that donors want additional payment methods. The shift is a few percentages in some cases, but it can make enormous difference in revenue when you go up 2, 3, 5%. Most reasons for why regular giving is typically direct debit only, most of those reasons have very viable solutions. I'll help you if you need help putting that together in that conversation. Um, the cost outweighs the benefits in the impact revenue. And the cost, what I mean by that is the time to consider this, implement these kind of changes. Retention is not stronger with direct debit. It's not in some subsets of data, you might see that it would. Desktop donor on Microsoft Edge browser using direct debit might have a longer retention than your average Apple Pay, but overall, the overall cohort of those that are giving on non-direct debit are retaining longer. There are tools like Fundraise Up that exist that allow UK charities to deliver this experience without additional costs, right? Let's flip the who invests in who paradigm. New donor demographics are within reach. Charities large and small and in between all have had similar results. So it's not an outlier situation. This is a human situation, and more impact is within reach. And with that, I thank you for your time. If we have some time for Q&A, we can do that. I will just one more time drop in my contact information here. If you'd like to send me an email, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm often sharing some data or publishing some data there. Let me go ahead and put this in here. And again, the contact information. If you prefer a British accent, my colleagues Barry and Ravazi can be in touch with you. So that is what I have to share. I hope that was useful, or at least something to think about.
Thank you. That I think that has been fascinating, and I'm going to have to rewatch this back again actually because there's so much data in some of those slides. Yeah, that was really, really interesting. There are a few questions, so I've unmuted people now so that if need be they can speak. But just to start with, there was a question about Apple Pay and Google Pay.
Mhm.
So with standing orders, the supporter has to change their donation amount with the bank, whereas with direct debits, the charity, with the donor's permission, can increase it or decrease it. So what about Google and Apple Pay? Is that more along the lines of direct debits or more like standing orders?
With Google Pay, Apple Pay, credit card, these other payment methods, with our platform, it's possible for either the nonprofit admin uh, to log in and modify that amount. Say if they call in or they telephone and say, I'd like to make a change, you can do that for them, or they have access on their monthly receipt via URL to do that themselves if they want to. Again, we're looking to mirror what they can do with the Telegraph or Netflix or any other subscription and give them functionality that is at parity with that. So they can do it on their own, or they can contact the organization to do it for them. Does that
Right.
answer the question? It might not have put all the standing order direct debit bits in the right place, but at the core of it, that is what is possible.
Thanks. And another question was with Salvation Army, those stats were compelling, but how were they generating the traffic to get these signups? Was it mostly digital, or were they sort of doing it offline at festivals and so on?
Yeah, so all the data that we have is coming from their digital acquisition channel. So any emails they've sent, any advertising, social ad spend, et cetera. So that's where that set of data is coming from.
Mm.
So they, through that channel, they saw 70-80% lift in regular donor acquisition by opening up the floodgates, if you will, to other ways for donors to give.
And then there was quite a lot of talk on the chat backwards and forwards about what do you do when you're in a place with no Wi-Fi, and no signal. So I was just interested in your thoughts on that. Are there ways to get around that? Because obviously with direct debit, you can get people to fill in a paper form, can't you, and process it later. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, what solutions are there? Offline solutions where you can sort of take information and then process it later when you have a signal, or
Sure. I mean, with Apple Pay, PayPal, and Google Pay, no, those are locked to your device. Wherever you are able to transact on your device, which we're seeing from the data is the majority of transactions happening through mobile device when it's presented. You need to have Wi-Fi signal. Now, credit card, someone can telephone in, they can write it on a piece of paper, they could write their direct debit details down, and the nonprofit, the charity uh, administrator can log in and then enter that gift for them. So take it on a piece of paper, put it into the system, credit card, direct debit, no problem. So that still stands as far as what is possible.
Hmm. Okay, thanks. And then a very technical question this was.
I love it.
Your slide that you showed that was about desktop versus mobile.
Mhm.
Lisa was saying that she couldn't work it out because the figures didn't seem to add up to 100%. So
On the percentages of of who are giving on which.
I think this was the slide where it was showing uh, all charities and then desktop and then for Christian charities.
Yes. It was around 11 p.m. last night when I saw that, and then I worked out the why. I'll have to revisit the why in my head, but it was multiple gifts that were made through different devices.
Oh,
So we had a 102 or 103% total because there were multiple gifts. But I can address that if you'd like to email me about it.
okay, yeah. So it was Lisa was saying it was referring to the new regular gifts and which payment method they used.
Yep, yep, that was that.
Yeah.
I can articulate it better, but I did dig into that last night.
Yeah. Um, so any other questions from people? We've got a few people that have said they had to go, but uh, we're very appreciative. So a lot of people do want the slides afterwards. So uh,
Fantastic.
yeah. So one person's asked, when you say credit card, do you also mean direct debit cards? Which I'm not quite sure what that means.
Yeah, yep. Direct debit cards, they'll have typically a Visa logo or a MasterCard logo, and they'll still be direct debit cards. So those are just fine as well. Yeah. They're treated as a credit card. I think in the platform we ask for card details, not credit or debit. There's no specification because they operate equally on the
Uh,
front end.
Katiana's got a question. Katiana, can you unmute yourself? I think I've
Yes.
great.
Hello. I was trying to type it fast enough, and I was like, I'm not going to manage this. So I was just wanting to ask, have you found that there are people who are already committed donors who are giving via direct debit because that's all that we've offered in the past, and then they've actually gone, actually, because you've now got Google and Apple Pay available, we'd actually like to switch over to that. Like, have you found that at all?
We did see a number of them. I didn't pull that data of what percentage have switched from one to the other. But I can find that information for you because we provide the donors with a self-service portal where they can change their payment method on their
Mm,
own, right? And they can log in and do that. So there is some percentage that will prefer to get their frequent flyer miles or the Avios with BA or whatever, and on their credit card instead of the direct debit. But it's a small subset that will switch. But really, what we see overwhelmingly is that it's not about those that are switching from direct debit to credit card. In the end, the cost is negligibly different to the
mhm.
organization in processing. But what we're seeing is when you offer those, there's a massive amount that you attract and add that
Yeah.
otherwise wouldn't have given with only direct debit.
Okay, lovely. Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Naomi.
Have you noticed any difference in terms of the number of people that gift aid with Google Pay and Apple Pay versus direct debit, or is that pretty much standard?
Great question. If we had a 90-minute session, I would have been able to dive into the gift aid and the percentages that claim gift aid or not. We do build in gift aid to the process. I recall looking quickly, but I don't recall it being a massive difference in those that are claiming gift aid between the two. So that kind of remains constant. You can still claim gift aid on direct debit, on credit card, Apple Pay, etc. It gift aid is applicable on any payment method. But I think I see Heather was asking about that. Feel free to email me and I can give you some specific data on the gift aid by payment method.
Mm. And a question from me: which which charities, Christian or otherwise, and ideally UK ones, would you
Mhm.
say have a really good sign up experience? So which ones would you recommend that we look at? Because we're all there looking at what everybody else is doing and trying to learn from other people. Any that come to mind that you think, if you want to see a good example of how to do it, go there.
I mean, I would recommend looking at the ones that I shared the case studies on there. IJM UK, Salvation Army. Um, what were some of the other ones there that we pulled from the data set? Because all of those are seeing, you know, massive growth, and that's where I want to make sure that we're looking at those examples. Mercy Ships UK, CBM, uh, God TV UK, CAFOD, uh, a larger, more well-known name. So look at any of those orgs, click on their regular giving, click on their buttons and see how they're doing it. They're they're seeing numbers that they're seeing not incremental lift. They're seeing major kind of plateau shifts in their numbers by opening that up.
Fantastic. This is a good question. Do these alternative methods only work with monthly donations? Because some donors prefer to give at different frequencies.
Yeah, fantastic question, Pandora. They work with any frequency. In fact, typically on platforms, you'll be locked into a monthly or an annual. We have built into the platform an every 4-week frequency. So you're getting 13 installments a year. You have monthly, bi-weekly, bi-monthly, quarterly, annual. So I think we have about 10 or 12 frequencies altogether that you can offer donors. So again, meet them where they are. And if they want to give quarterly, we should be able to do that. But we know the technology is possible.
Mm. Well, I think that's the end of the questions for now. As I say, I think other people, probably a bit like me, are going to go back over the presentation and look at it more slowly and really, really investigate the data, because there was some really, really interesting data there that I hope other people found it as compelling as I did. Yeah,
Good.
it's been
Fantastic.
yeah, it's been so good to have you on. I've been really looking forward to this. I knew that it would be fantastic. And yeah, I think what's good as well is that you've started, hopefully helped us to start a conversation, because as you were saying, we need to start internal conversations. But let's learn from each other, start conversations here in Feed
That's it.
and share information and ideas. So
That's it.
yeah.
And if anyone will be at IFC in October in Netherlands, I know there's a lot of UK orgs that attend that. I'll come say hi. I'll be presenting there, and we can spend some time, have a coffee.
Yes, yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sal. It's been fantastic, and enjoy the rest of your day, and enjoy exploring Atlantis. So
Thanks so much. Thank you, everyone.
thank you everybody else for being on the call. Really glad to have you here. Thank you. Bye.